Okay, so let's get started. Today we will discuss about security in distributed system. What are the requirements of security in distributed operating system? That is our topic of discussion. And what type of threat, what type of difficulties we have to face when we impose a security on distributed system. So that these things we are going to cover today. So at first, let me tell you what are the requirements of security. Why we use these types of security in distributed operating system. See, the concept of distributed operating system is there are various nodes or various site or various process which are located in different area network, and each and every site wants to communicate with other site. Communication means they want to communication means one process want to access a resources which is held by another process, and they are also want to access some critical section. So the communication means basically these things. So when one process send requirement message or request message to other process, and when this process sends a reply message to the first one, so these types of communication, these types of message passing must be done in very secured channel, because if someone or third party or unauthorized person see these types of message passing or these types of algorithm which is someone is waiting. So the requirement of security is some unauthorized person can see these types of message passing system which is happening between two computers. So these types of message passing means requirement message and reply message, resource allocation message. So all this message must be passed within very secure channel. So that is our main motivation or main aim while we talk about the security in distributed operating system. So what happened at first, a sender encrypt its request message and the receiver decrypt these types of request message which is comes from sender side, and again receiver encrypt its reply message and the receiver decrypt these types of reply message which is comes from sender. So there are encryption decryption policy in between sender and receiver while they pass some resources or some critical section within each other. So our first topic of discussion in security system is what are the goals, what are the aim or goal of security in distributed operating system. See, the first aim must be what was the definition of distributed system. Definition means which type of resources this system uses, which type of algorithm, which type of hardware, software this distributed system are using. So that is called the definition of distributed system. And the second point says, what was the definition of protocol? Protocol means it is nothing but set of rules, set of steps which we have to follow. So at first we have to know properly which type of protocol this distributed operating system are using. So that will be our second aim or second goal. And the third point says what will happen if protocol is known to third party. Then what type of difficulty we have to face. So that is a third aim or third goal. And the last one says how to protect distributed system against it. So these four property or four characteristics of distributed system is called the aim or goal of security. Now, what are the threats when we impose a security on distributed operating system? What type of difficulties or what type of threats we must face? So the first threat will be dependability. Dependability means when we apply some security on distributed operating system, then we have to trust our authorized client or sender or receiver, whatever it is. But the main difficulty is what happened, this authorized person leak our confidential data to third party. So that is called the dependability issue in security. Means sometimes authorized person leaks our confidential data to third party. And the second test will be the confidentiality, means information is disclosed to only authorized parties. No unauthorized person or no unauthorized authority can see our message passing algorithm in distributed operating system. So these types of confidentiality we have to maintain. Second thing is integrity, means alteration can be made only in authorized manner. Means if any types of modification, any types of alteration, someone is waiting. So the integrity means if any types of modification or any types of alteration, if it is must be needed, then it must happen very authorized manner. No unauthorized person can see our modification or our alteration into our network or distributed operating system. Now the fourth point says is interception, means all access by unauthorized users. Sometimes what happens, unauthorized users or hacker can perceive our message passing algorithm. or confidential data which we want to pass through our channel, then some unauthorized person or hacker can read our messages. So that will be one type of threat. And the second thing is interruption, means service or data sometimes becomes unavailable. Why service and data sometimes become unavailable? Because what happened? Hacker or unauthorized person sometimes install their program, malicious program into our system. So that is why sometimes our main control will be hacked by someone and the service and data becomes unavailable. And the last thing is modification and fabrication. Modification fabrication means same thing, hacker or unauthorized person adds some malicious information or data into our system. And why it is malicious? Because it has replication capability. By using this replication capability, these types of program can replicate itself and it collapse or destroy our whole distributed operating system. So that will be the big threat when we impose security into our distributed operating system, which is called the fabrication and modification. So that are the threats in security, that are the main threats while we impose security on our distributed operating system. Now, the next topic of discussion is what type of attack? What are the categories of attack into our system? So, several attacks are categorized into mainly two categories: passive attacks and active attacks. Passive attack means introducer or a hacker or unauthorized person tries to steal our confidential information without interfering the normal functioning of the system. Means normal functioning of the system will be unchanged or it cannot be. So the concept of passive attacks means normal functioning of the system remains unchanged, but without interfering the normal operation of the system or normal functioning of the system, hacker or unauthorized person can steal our confidential data or information. So that is the concept of passive attacks. Then what are the examples of these types of attacks? First example is browsing. Browsing means in this method intruder means a thief or hacker wants to read our stored file, message packets which is situated into our network, and sometimes they can alter it or they can modify our messages. Second types of example is leaking. Leaking means authorized person can leak our confidential data to third party. Third type of example is inferencing. So the concept of inferencing is what happens sometimes hacker or unauthorized person wants to perceive our confidential data or want to perceives our key, confidential key. What is the meaning of that? So see, in message passing algorithm, at first client encrypt its data or encrypts its request message by using some types of key, and receiver also decrypt this message by using same key or different key. So these types of encryption decryption policy guaranteed that someone is waiting. No. So these types of encryption decryption policy always guarantees that our data or our messages will be passed very secure channel. So what happened? Attacker or unauthorized person tries to perceives our key. Key means it is sometimes of confidential data, and the most important things in these types of keys, it always uses some types of pattern or some types of logic, and these types of logic will be very common in nature. So what happens, sometimes third person or unauthorized person wants to perceive or wants to find out which type of pattern or which type of information is common to various keys, and by using these types of pattern matching algorithm they can retrieve our encryption decryption key. So this is called the inferencing. Inferencing means introducer tries to draw some inference by closely observing and analyzing the system data. And the fourth example is masquerading. Masquerading means being a thief. Introducer sometimes acts as a masquerader and steal our confidential information. So these are the examples of passive attacks. Now the next topic of discussion is active attacks. Active attacks means the normal functioning of the system is hacked by someone, and the unauthorized person can also steal our confidential data and they damage our whole system. That is the concept of active attacks. So the difference between passive and active attacks is, in passive attacks normal functioning of the system remains unchanged, but in active attack hackers can damage our normal functioning of the system and they steal our confidential data. So the first example of active attacks is FIDOS. So we know that FIDOS is nothing but a piece of code which is attached to a legitimate program, and the most important thing is it has replication capability. By using this replication technique they replicate itself and they destroy our whole operating system or whole functioning of the system. Next example of passive attacks is worms. Worms is nothing but it is one type of program which has spreading capability. It can spread itself from one computer to another computer, one network to another network, and steal our confidential data. And the last example of active attacks is logic bombs. So the concept of logic bombs is some trigger condition is associated with the program. So when this condition is satisfied, then the trigger. So see, logic bombs is a program that lies dormant until some trigger condition causes to explode. Means some trigger condition is associated with the main program. When the condition is satisfied, then trigger will be enabled and the whole program can destroy our system. So these are the three examples of active attacks. So that is the end of our today's discussion. So today we have discussed about the main concept of security in our distributed operating system, why we need security, and what were the threats, what will be the possible threat into our system, and at last we have discussed about two types of attacks. First one was called active attacks and first one is called passive attacks and the next one is called active attacks. The concept of passive attacks is attacker can steal our confidential data without interrupt our main functioning of the system. That is the concept of passive attacks. But the concept of active attacks is attacker can destroy our system and steal our confidential data. And then we have also discussed about various types of examples of passive and active attacks.